So I'm talking about violence in Chicago. I just met a police officer from Philadelphia, or Philadelphia is in Pennsylvania, has this city called Philadelphia. The city, like Chicago, like Illinois, has many cities. One of them is called Chicago. It's the most famous one there. Another one is Springfield. That's the actual capital. But
Springfield?
yeah, but who's been there? It's like.
I don't know that.
But Chicago, people go to Chicago. Then this police officer, he's retired now,
Yeah.
but he said Philadelphia, like this, right? You know what their motto is?
What?
The city of brotherly love. It's one of the most violent cities in the United States. He worked as a police officer. He said that he went to a high school to stop some problem that was there, and someone hit him on the back of the head. That's a high school student that hit him, most likely. One, he he gathered around. He's not going to shoot, the kids for that. Back,
Shoot them in the leg.
no, usually you don't do that.
Taser.
For kids, usually don't do that.
Teens.
So he turned around and he said, which one of them was it? There were so many. And then there was another problem. His partner, police officer partner, had his gun taken from him.
Oh.
Who took it?
Who has the gun then? Look for the gun.
So they called up so many police officers that they had to, what's the word, lock down the building. And eventually, a teacher turned in the school, or turned in the gun, or somebody found the gun. But he said the only reason they turned it in is because we had the building in lockdown and they couldn't get out without being searched. What I'm saying is that people say Disneyland, or Disney World, or Disney, the happiest place on earth. And yes, it has many positive Mickey Mouse, nice things for children, fantasies,
But
right?
then there's really scary rides too.
Well, the scary rides, that's for the ones that want to do that, right?
Yeah.
However, if you go to Orlando, the criminals know that you are a tourist, and that if they steal from you, you're going to tell the police about it, but you're going to leave the country
No.
because you live in another country. You live in,
But I live in this one.
but most tourists are not from here. When you go to Disney, you hear voices from people from all over the
I
world.
know. And then Universal, I heard people like something like something like that. I'm like, what?
That's correct. And what that means is that the criminals know this. So they say, if we steal their camera or we steal from them their money, they are not going to take, even if the police catch us, the police eventually will release us. Because if nobody is there to tell the police when they have to go to court, a week later, or etc., or a month later, then
In
the
jail?
case is dropped and they release the criminal.
So that he's still, and he keeps the purse.
If they catch him, he doesn't keep it. If they don't catch him, he keeps it. It's a violent city. The other thing that has happened in the United States is that the black people years ago were slaves, and the white people were the masters. And so that was the wrong way to treat. The Bible says, love thy neighbor, right?
Yeah.
So that was wrong. Slavery was wrong. The next thing that happened is when Martin Luther King came around and Rosa Parks, they began to say in the buses, the black people that got on the bus had to pay the same amount of money as the white people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the black people had to sit at the back of the bus and the white people had to sit in the front of the bus.
Or whatever they wanted. Besides that.
And then one time, Rosa Parks was so tired from work, and the bus driver, which was a white bus driver, told her that
To get out.
get off your seat and give it to the white people. She refused. She was arrested, put in jail, and then she began the civil rights movement, which means that she had rights. If she paid her fare, she has a right to sit there. Otherwise, it's called stealing. If you pay for a seat, they say get off, or sit in the back, or stand up. Then they're stealing from you your seat. So she began the civil rights movement or that's how the civil rights movement began. There was another little girl called Ruby. I believe her last name is Bridges. Ruby. She's about your grandmother's age now. And she wanted to go to school when she was a little girl. And there were two types of schools, the black schools and the white schools. The black people went to the black schools, the white people to the white schools. She was the first little girl to go to the white schools.
Because she's black.
Because she wanted to have a good education. In the black schools, perhaps they didn't have books. Perhaps they had one teacher for.
Okay, but she was a white person?
No, she was a black student
yeah,
girl.
Black person.
So, you know what the Supreme Court of the United States is?
Mm-hmm.
They make decisions about
Law.
laws. They decide against slavery. They decide
There
that
are like 3 courts, I think. Left or right.
there were 3 sources of power in the United States.
President is well, they're all equal.
Okay, ba ba ba. See how even a dog understands? So the president, the Supreme Court, and then there is
Legislative.
Congress, which they talk about and they write the laws.
What about the legislative or something?
That's what it is.
Oh, yeah.
Legislative. The president would be the executive, or they tell people what to do.
Mm-hmm.
However, they can be stopped by the other 2, supposedly. Please don't do that. So, the civil rights movement began. One result was that the black people were not listened to. So many of them went to Washington, where the president is, and now if you go to Washington D.C., which there are 2 of them, there's a state, and there's Washington D.C., which is somewhere over here in West
Mexico.
Virginia,
No, not Mexico. Near New York. Right?
somewhere around here. There's a Washington D.C. D.C. means, I believe, District of Columbia. So they have different types of laws for that particular place. Like perhaps they say you don't drive on that street because that's where the president's White House is, and if you drive, someone could put a bomb on your car or you yourself and then blow up the president or disturb. So there are public buildings where not everyone is allowed to enter. Either way, Washington, D.C. is where many black people lived, or began to live, so that they can be listened to by Congress. a result of that is that Washington, D.C. is one of the most violent cities. When I heard that it was more violent than Chicago, I said, what? How is that possible? And then in the world, I heard that the most violent city, I thought it would be perhaps Iraq, perhaps Colombia.
I thought it was Iraq.
It's in Honduras, San Pedro Sula. You know how I tell you about let's not be a sitting duck? If your mother goes into the bank,
City.
a sitting duck is a person waiting to be attacked by a criminal. Soon I'll show you a video of, it doesn't show if it's a man or a woman driving, but the car parks, right? Or it's parked. And the guy doesn't get out. Maybe he's looking through his papers, or maybe the girl's looking through her purse. And another criminal, well, not, that one, I don't know if it's a criminal or not. It's a person, right? And then a criminal parks the car, or doesn't, it just stops the car. Three men get out, and one of them shoots the driver of the first car. And then they leave. This is done in about 15 seconds. My point is, this was caught on video camera, but it doesn't.
How is it caught? Shouldn't the hitman be better like sniper?
Well, you don't have to do that if there are no video cameras. You know, walk around with a knife or a gun and just shoot somebody. But you're right, I do suspect it was a hitman. Perhaps the driver of the first car was the son of a bank president, or the son of a judge, or maybe even a judge. Somebody. But what it tells you is that in Honduras, you can get away with a crime that in the United States or in other countries, other Western countries or rich countries, the first world, people would not get away with. If you drive without the tag on your car in the United States, the police will stop you possibly before you do the crime. So what they do is they steal a tag of another person, or they steal the car of another person, go do the crime, and then abandon the vehicle. All right. Talk to you later. When he comes back, I'll tell him this.